Good morning, everyone. It is quarter till 7, and of course, it's still dark here in Seattle, and we actually probably won't get any real sunlight for quite some time. So maybe I'll be hitting up the tanning bed today for that, as if you can tell that I tan. I am actually doing this for my husband's office today, and realized just how bland our walls are, and we really need to change that. He is sleeping in the bedroom because, as I said, it's quarter till 7. It's ridiculously early, especially for someone who doesn't normally go into work until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm at the other end of the house letting him sleep. Um, oh, it's the first time you guys have seen me with makeup. Ooh. So today I'm doing a little bit about Kemeticism. I still haven't figured out what the right term is for that. This is a subject that I am highly interested in studying. If anyone, I've done, I think the most that I can online so far, but if anyone knows of any really good informational sites, I would be greatly appreciative if you put those out there. If not, then yeah. Oh well. I have found a bookstore nearby that has a lot of surplus books and used books and unusual, well, not so much unusual, but books that you don't see necessarily at the mainstream bookstores. Um, so probably over the next few months, as I have some extra money, I will be, there we go, computer did weirdness. I will be checking them out and picking up a couple books on Egyptology, Egypt religion, and the like. But in my studies or in what research I've done, I found a very strong racist element. Um, okay, so some of the arguments are that they claim that Kemet is ancient Egypt is a black land. Okay, and that stands for the people, and that white people looking into it are being racist. Okay. Or it is something that belongs to the blacks and that whites should not be looking into. I'm not saying that everyone feels this way. I don't believe that at all. Um, but some people do. So I am putting one video, one set of my arguments out there of why I feel that whites, and including myself, have a right to claim um, oh, what's the word? I have a connection to ancient Egypt. I just do. And here are some reasons I think all people should look into them. Should look into Egypt and ancient Egypt. So to start with, we're going to ignore the arguments about Kemet being the black land, right, for the moment. Let's look at ancient Egypt itself. Now, Egypt is, well, first off, it's still around. There are, actually, I can't think of any other country. I may be mistaken. Well, no, there's China and Japan. Okay. But I think Egypt might be older than Japan, so maybe China. But there aren't very many, if any, cultures that have lasted for so many millennia. Now, obviously, Egypt currently has changed quite a bit from what it was millennia ago. It's now predominantly Muslim, if you want talking about religious wise. It's now more or less a democracy. It's having its issues there. But, so yes, lots of change. And it's shrunk a bit. Lots and lots of change. But it's still around. And what doesn't change when it's around for a while? I mean, you're definitely not the same person you were 7 years ago. So imagine, 700 years or double that or triple. So, anyway, it's still around. It has ancient Egypt its history is, for the most part, very well documented. Um, it's lasted, okay, so it's around, it's well documented, which makes it easy to study, or relatively easy to study. Easier to study than, say, many of the other African nations that have appeared and then disappeared over the years. Easier to study than, I would say, um, the Celts, whose information wasn't as well documented. It was more tribal. Um, so, you know, you get that picture. There's also the fact that Christianity is based on a mixture of religions, which I know a lot of Christians aren't going to like this idea, but if you study your history and you look into the history, you will see that it's fact. I'm not putting down Christianity in any way whatsoever. If it is the path that you need to be on, then follow it. But no, be understand the history of your beliefs. So Christianity was originally based off of, obviously, a combination of different belief systems, including, I believe, Samaria. I believe that is where the images of, or they pulled the images of the devil and hell, where they pulled those from, I believe. I know, I'm fairly certain that's where Lilith came from, which she appears in some Jewish lore. Not not necessarily, I think, their holy book, but in some of their traditional lore. I believe. I'm not an expert on any of that. But the a lot of the basis of Christianity comes out of Kemet. Um, of course, the idea of the fallen and reborn God. That's in so many cultures, it's ridiculous. Well, not so much it's ridiculous, but it's in a lot of cultures. So it's not just belongs to Christianity there. Um, the family trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, can easily be applied to Father Osiris, Son Horus, Holy Ghost Isis. And yes, I know that these are not the ancient Egyptian terms. So, ancient Egypt, or Kemet, inspired Christianity. And nothing, no religion, no form of politics I believe, has influenced the world, the entire world, as strongly as Christianity has. So that right there is one reason why, at least for me, I want to look into the source of Christianity. Where did this come from? What are the beliefs that were predominant at that time frame? I personally don't follow Christianity, partly because I feel it has been corrupted by, well, first off, it doesn't sit right with me anymore. But I do feel it has been corrupted by a lot of political leaders. Uh, Politics got involved, and a couple of selfish people got involved, and they twisted things here and there to suit their needs. So, in that sense, it doesn't ring true to me anymore. But, let's see. So, Kemet and Christianity. Okay, Kemet and racism. Well, first off, all of humanity comes out of Africa. We evolved from Africa. The first humans existed in Africa. As I mentioned, the other African nations, none have lasted as long or were as well documented. Now, of course, if you live in Africa, then it's probably fairly easy to learn about a decent amount of the history of the different nations in the area. But to go back to the times of ancient Egypt and to go, or to the times of Kemet, and find another nation that was as strong, as politically powerful, and it lasted as long and as well documented. I may be wrong, and if I am, please let me know, because I'm interested in learning. But I don't think it exists. So, and being from the outside of this marvelous continent, I mean, it's gorgeous. I really need to go visit sometime. But to be from the outside, it's very hard to study and to understand. Whereas, like as I mentioned, Kemet was well documented and did last so long. And because it lasted so long, it's what made it so well documented, and it makes it a little easier to find information on. Sorry, I'm on a futon here, so it's not the most comfortable place to sit. So I do think because all of humanity came out of Egypt, or came out of Africa, that we all, in a sense, is the homeland for all of us. Not just those who recently came out. Just like Portugal. My grandfather's from Portugal. For him, it is his homeland. And to me, I have a tie to it as well. Even though I didn't come there from Portugal directly, my grandfather did. I feel the same way towards Africa. Even though I personally, was not born there. And my family, within recent generations, was not from there. But all of humanity is. So in a sense, it is our home. So going back and learning about cultures and religions and belief systems, day-to-day lives in that area, as far back as we can, is as close as we can go to going to our purest ancestral home. Now, the idea of Kemet being all black. Yes, Kemet is the term that the ancient Egyptians used to describe their home. To them, it meant the black lands. The reason for this is not a race issue. It comes from the color of the soil around the Nile. Now that area was called the Black Lands. That's where Egypt was. Beyond where the Nile flooded, because the Nile flooded, it left silt, and that's what made that soil black. Beyond that, were the Redlands, was the desert. Everything was burnt red from the sun. It was, as far as race within the society, there are arguments that they were black. Well, yes, many of them were. But they weren't all. There was a kind of mixture of races. The Kemetics, or ancient Egyptians, I'm not even sure what the right term is, but we'll just go with ancient Egyptians for now, were not racist. They were xenophobic, which means they did not like people from other cultures, as was the same for all cultures at this time. That's where the term barbarian comes from, is from the ancient Romans picking on anyone who wasn't, Roman and couldn't speak their language. And they said they barbared, was how their talk was barbar, so they're barbarians. This can be repeated over and over, savages, so on and so forth. It's not a race issue, it's a culture issue. So while yes, the ancient Egyptians did have their issues, they were not perfect, but they weren't racist. They were xenophobic. They did not like people from other cultures. But over time, they developed kind of myriad of races within their culture. And that wasn't an issue for them. As long as you act like you know, the whole song just popped in my head, walk like an Egyptian, whatever. As long as you acted like an Egyptian, you were an Egyptian. That's all there was to it. Uh, so yeah, I guess that covers pretty much everything. There may be a couple things I left out, but this video is already 15 minutes long, and I don't normally do videos that long, at least I'm trying not to. But that's the basics, the basis of my views on the racial issues with white people studying Kemet. And yes, I know I am incredibly white and blending into the white wall behind me. I get it. But I think we have just as much a right as anyone to want to learn about which it is our ancestral homeland. It's the ancestral homeland of all of us. It's a unifying factor. And there's no reason to try to say that, to try to separate people from this unifying factor. I think it's beautiful that way. Anyway, that is everything for now. I might do a couple more videos this morning and then post them randomly, but yeah, guess that's all. So until later, until next time, bright blessings.